Hello, everybody. Welcome to Startup Saturday. We thought travel and hospitality is a very relevant theme in these times, given that most of us are craving to be a part of, some sort of travel or the other, because we haven't stepped out of our homes for a very long time now. And how is this going to uh, pan out eventually when everything opens up? We still don't know. It's still a lot of uncertainty. So we're going to discuss a lot of these aspects in today's session. We have three panel discussions today, and we have speakers from a lot of different startups. The first panel, of course, is going to be around technology, how technology is acting as an enabler for the travel industry, and we have Purav Shah from QuaQua, and we also have Pick Your Trail. Purav, can we have your
Thank you,
video on,
guys.
please?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, Purav.
Hey, Hari.
So, both you guys, you have technology as a common factor for both of your offerings, especially in the travel domain. So we'll first, start with, your background. So Pura first, and then maybe we can take up Hari as well. If you could, spend a couple of minutes about your background, where do you come from? How did QuaQua and Pick Your Trail happen? The idea, how did you put the initial team together? Just a few minutes on that, and then we'll move on to the next set of thoughts. So please, Purav, if you can begin there. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks. So first of all, congratulations to Headstart. Wonderful initiative. And for a community-based platform to be consistent like this for over a decade is commendable. And I look forward to attending more sessions for sure. So for the entire team, kudos to you. About me, born and raised in Gujarat. So entrepreneurship bug was always somewhere in the gene. This is my third startup. The first two, one was early in 2000, mid 2000s. The recent one was in 2013-14. Both of them got acquired. This is my third startup. Um, Primary part of my professional career I've spent in, I started with outsourcing, advisory, and strategic sourcing, um, covering various countries and Fortune 1000 clients on outsourcing, advisory, shared services, optimization, and globalization. Eventually moved to digital transformation and digital consulting. Last decade has been primarily focused on post-merger integrations and digital transformation in technology, media, entertainment, and travel. So that's where that's about me. When it comes to QuaQua, this thought always was on my mind that as a traveler, our how has technology changed my life? Except that in the last one decade, we started. You look at food tech, edu tech, fintech, and everybody uses technology in the best possible manner. But when it comes to travel, except the boarding pass on my phone, my life has not changed as a traveler. How has technology changed my life? So that was something that always used to nag me. And whenever I would end up, part of consulting job, I was fortunate to travel to multiple countries. Whenever I would travel, two things always came to my mind. Uh, there is no go-to app for travel. Uh, that is number one. Number two, there is not an end-to-end travel app where my inspiration through bookings, through my memories are all in one place. So that thought kept lingering on my mind, and then I kept talking to a few friends. So late 2016, early 2017, I happened to meet a few people who were interested in funding a startup. And the only two words I discussed with them was virtual travel. And unfortunately, COVID is not the best example, but it's the right time to say that for this type of situations, we kept virtual travel in mind that you may have limitations in terms of money or physical limitations, but there is no limitation to traveling through your phone or through your desktop or laptop. And that's how we started. We started QuaQua. Obviously, there are more use cases about technology, about end-to-end travel, about a content-first travel platform, and that's the core of what QuaQua is all about. That we it's an inspiration and discovery led engine. So we curate the best videos for every point of interest around the world, and through videos, through the storytelling, we lead you to travel inspiration and planning. In terms of initial team, few of my colleagues may be on the call. Uh, when I started thinking about this, it was always a known devil versus unknown devil, and then I realized, let me think of people I would love to work with, and people who I can entrust with a lot of responsibilities. So digged into my network, found 3 4 individuals who were also passionate about this idea, and then they joined us. That's how we started. 3.5 years, around 2 years in the platform development. 1 year was more research, ideation, etc. And that's where we are. In the last 6 months, we've had around 25 million video views, 3 million use across social channels, more than 6 minutes engagement time on the platform per user, 3 million users, unique users on the platform itself. And yeah, that's where we stand. Less than 50% bounce rate.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. I mean, in a very short time, you have rigged up all those views and all those impressions. So I think fantastic there. I think you have a knack with digital transformation, and there is I think if you were not doing travel, you would be doing something, but that would be digital transformation for sure. That is what I can understand from the conversation.
Consulting for sure, yes. So
Yes,
consulting in that space, media entertainment and travel tech, or media entertainment with like a confluence of marketing, technology, and content is something that really excites me.
sure, sure. Great, great. Hari, can we have initial thoughts from you on that same? Yeah.
Super guys. So the advantage of going after somebody who's very accomplished is that you don't have to say much. You can just keep it very simple, right? So pretty much traveler, been to about 35 odd countries. The idea of Pickyourtrail came about because me and Srinath, my co-founder, we love traveling, and we were on a Euro trip, and we figured out that the overall, I mean, similar feelers like Purav, right? Travel technology is not really solid. People continue to have very, very packaged experiences. How do we kind of change the overall vacation planning and booking experience? Net, we started with Pickyourtrail with that premise, and it's been about 6.5 years. For the first 5 years, we were bootstrapped. So any questions on bootstrapping or any of that, please feel free to kind of hit me up. I'm at Hari PYT on Twitter, HARIPYT, Pickyourtrail acronym on Twitter. And after that, we raised a 3 mil round from a bunch of investors from like Freshworks, Zoho founders, right? And we're doing well. And then now COVID hit. And so we're hoping that currently we'll be able to kind of see through this phase and then grow again on the overall trajectory we were in. A quick brief about myself. I did my BSc Physics, then moved on to work with Cognizant for a while, then did my MBA from IIM Bangalore, then worked with a bunch of FMCG companies. My idea was always build a brand. I think I'm really fascinated about consumer behavior, the way people behave, and how brands are built, right? And that's what drew me towards FMCG. Then post which I worked in media sales in a startup called Inmobi, which is way back in 2011, before VC funding was like a really big boom. SoftBank wrote their first big check for India in Inmobi. It was a great experience to kind of see the company grow. And after that, we started Pickyourtrail. It's been a good 6.5 years. It's been fun, and look forward to building this over the next couple of years as well. Eventually, I hope to make a movie someday. So Hyderabad is a good place to have connections when you want to make movies. So hopefully, some of you can hit me up when that phase comes in eventually. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to sharing our journey with you guys.
Hari, if it's a Hindi movie and you need a lyricist, please count me in.
Done. कर देते हैं फिर. Super.
Fantastic.
I do write poetry in my spare time. When I really find time for myself, I do try to write a few ghazals.
So I think you should spin that story on how I named it QuaQua. Khwaishe and then it became QuaQua. So
no, actually there is a reason behind QuaQua. There is a word in English called QuaQua. It's derived from a Latin term, which means from the center of a compass you can drift in any direction. So QuaQua was a very long word, and we just thought QuaQua has a zing to it, and that's how we went ahead with QuaQua.
On that note, yeah, I'll just move, slightly deeper into each of your respective companies, both QuaQua and Pickyourtrail. Uh, Tell us, our audience, tell us something about the technology, about the kind of technology you're using, maybe the back end, or maybe, what should they be ready with if they want to start in this domain? What kind of technology or what kind of scale do they have to think about, because both of you are from different sort of, complementing, I would say, not exactly competing, but complementing nature. So if you could give us that thought, what kind of technology would you choose? How did you go about choosing the technology for your backend? And where do you see this? Any mistakes that they should not be committing? Yeah.
Super. I'll maybe get started, Purav, if it's fine with you.
Sure.
Super. Great. So because a very short, simple answer for us. So when we started out, I'll talk about very specifically, we had a JavaScript front end and Bootstrap JavaScript, and then a simple SQL backend, right? Driven obviously on Java, right? So the overall database was in SQL. Java was the language to kind of run the controllers and stuff, and we were on JavaScript, right? That was very easy when you had to kind of do very simple matching, n number of itineraries, right? For a particular city, you have to go fetch the maximum. If a user comes and gives 2 or 3 inputs, what's the best matching itinerary, right? Very easy to do that, right? But when we evolved the product, right? So very simply, initially our entire itinerary was like an Excel, right? Where you could kind of look at it on the top level, and then if you look at any travel itinerary, it's the slots. Within a day, there's a slot, right? And people want to edit that slot, right? So today afternoon to evening, what am I doing, right? Today night, where am I staying, right? So things like that. So that is when we made the move to React, because React gave us the control to kind of control within the browser, very, very minute parts of the browser. So each of these entities we could control in the front end and make them editable. And also while doing this, we also had to move to NoSQL because our itineraries objects were getting a lot more complicated, right? So we could not maintain it very, very sequentially related databases, right? Even today, our CRM and lead scoring, all of those aspects continue to be relational, but the overall product, so in terms of interactions, in terms of itineraries, in terms of custom events, all of that is a NoSQL which gets pushed in. And then we use either Python or other kind of other tools to analyze and then top of it build business insights, right? And we've been on AWS tools from the day one, so it's been very easy to kind of scale on top of it. That's about it. And when we moved apps, I think sometime in 2016, 17, we were very clear that we didn't want to maintain 2 code bases at a very early age for an app, right? So we went to the React Native, right? So it is much easier to maintain the code bases, right? And React Native was also significantly increased in terms of overall usability. While it can't compete with a native iOS app as yet, but I think overall it solves the problem of not having to maintain multiple code bases. And when you're trying to hack growth, we took that call.
Okay, great. So yeah, Purav, over to you.
Right. So because we are a content led and we have a lot of VR AR features on the platform, I often come across people with this question that why did you decide to venture into the VR industry? So my standard answer always is, you first decide the bride and then you decide the venue, and not the other way around. So you don't decide the technology first and then venture into, oh, I love VR, now I'm going to find a use case in travel. You first identify your industry and then you decide the technology. As you rightly mentioned in the introduction, it's an enabler. So for us, there were 2 considerations. One is a content first platform has to be taken to the world in a very new way. So what do we do regarding the content, and then obviously the technology that would be able to adhere to the dream that we have, the vision that we have. So when it came to virtual travel, everybody had this in mind in early stages, that let's do something around virtual reality and only focus on virtual reality headsets, head mounted devices, etc. When we started looking that for a while, and it was a mistake very early on, we course corrected that we were narrowing down too much into VR, and we were narrowing down ourselves into the industry which is very small rather than travel industry, which is a $8.3 trillion industry, right? So that was a very early course correction, that rather than calling ourselves a VR based travel platform, we will say we are a travel platform which also uses VR. So for any startup, you need to have that in mind, that are you looking at the bigger picture. When it comes to technology, in terms of content, we realized YouTube is the only medium out there. Primarily, you have Lonely Planets of the World, etc. But all these are 2D videos shot by an individual, and they just tell you one individual story or the way it has been captured. But when you use 360-degree as a medium to communicate, the user has the liberty to check the environment, immerse himself or herself in the environment. And that's how we started thinking of 360 as one of the primary mediums. Obviously 2D is a medium, like 4K resolution videos are not going anywhere else, so that's also medium, but 360 was a medium. So we started thinking of those on those lines, and we started initially using Unity as a platform for interactive and immersive development. However, very soon we realized that Unity has certain limitations when it comes to mobile browser compatibility, and then we had to start thinking on players, like we use 3D Vista right now. And for the tech stack, just like what Hari mentioned, keep it simple. What is always proven. So we started with Java as a base. We earlier were on Angular, but due to performance and better availability of the libraries, we moved to React. So there was a time where we had to take a decision to move from Angular 2 to Angular 4, and we realized that it's almost rewriting everything. So why not rewrite it in a tool that is more scalable? So just on a side note, because there are a lot of us who have come from a consulting background in the core team, we always develop principles before we take decisions at QuaQua. So we decided, what are the principles for us? Auto scaling, um, uh, less capex as much as possible for a startup, leverage startup credits, whatever you get from AWS, etc. Ride on current innovation rather than rewriting everything. So we are a heavily API driven backend. So it's a classic 3-tier architecture where you have Java stack, you have MySQL, and we have Spring framework, and we also have uh, and the lots. So apart from that, we also do a lot of work with Google AR Core, Apple AR Kit, and Unity for the VR stores. And for the new products that are coming out from QuaQua, we are going to be heavy on AR VR, and therefore web VR, etc., has now become a norm. So we are banking on it. For content creation, there is a lot of Adobe Creative Cloud that we use. Enterprise perspective, again, just like any startup, we don't have like an enterprise wide similar, like enterprise wide one app. So for CRM, we use Zoho. For other enterprise applications, we use Zoho. Microsoft Teams is what we use for virtual
Right.
apps and plug projects.
Those will be the support, the support functions internal to your organization. One thing with Hari and Purav, I think it will be interesting for our audience to know is, when you started, it was a few years back, and there was not even a thought about something like COVID crossing our minds. Now that there is, the situation is like, and if somebody were to start now in your respective domains, can you give us what will you do different? Putting in perspective the availability of talent, putting in perspective the the pricing, because there is a certain expenditure associated with every technology, be it with the servers, the physical infrastructure, or be it the manpower, the team. So what would you do different, or what would you recommend in the current scenario for people who are starting in respective domains, each of you?
I think so. Clearly, the two parts to the question, at least from my understanding, Shrikant. So one is basically, what would you advise if somebody wants to start up right now in travel space, and if specifically how the tech piece plays out, right? So I think, like Purav made a point very clearly. I think it's very easy if you're building something that's kind of scalable, you want to leave a larger impact, right? And in terms of overall speed, in terms of execution, they're better off building on things that have been already proven, right? And you don't want to pick up, for example, Flutter right now, right? Because Flutter is kind of picking up right now, but you don't know how it's going to be, how is the support going to be, and so on and so forth. So you're better off picking up something that is tested, tried and tested. Number one. Number two, it's also, I mean, we had a struggle in 2016-17. React was not very mainstream as yet, right? So we had trouble hiring people for React, but now it's a lot more mainstream in terms of number of people who know React and are able to code in React, right? So I think also picking up technologies where people are kind of comfortable, because it also defines the speed at which you can move as an organization, right? So I think keeping that in mind is very, very critical. Not just in technology, in general, anything. I think one of the key things to avoid is to fall prey to the shiny new object syndrome. That's what I call, right? So I mean, anything that's new, especially if you're a problem solver, leader, entrepreneur, you very easily get dissatisfied with status quo. You want something new to kind of look at, chew at, and right. But it's not the best thing to do if you want to kind of build something really solid over time, because then the amount of focus and energy that each one takes will kind of take away the overall impact of what you build. So try and stay away from that. For example, in 2016, when Flipkart, Myntra, Urban Ladder, everybody went app only, right? We decided, no, I think mobile web will continue to be there. I mean, because we knew a vacation is a very, very involved purchase, right? It's not something that you just go, click, check and book, right? So there's no way people are going to book anything on the app, and our average transaction values are about $4,000, right? So it doesn't make sense to do that. So we kind of took that stance and said, we will not go app first, right? And then that kind of, then they also gravitated back to a mobile web strategy. So I think it's important to have, like, again, Purav said, the principles. I think that's something I'm going to borrow and start using a lot more. Thank you for that.
Sure, Hari. That is helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, like Hari mentioned, two parts of the question. First one is, if somebody is, if you have a brilliant travel startup idea right now and you want to start up, my personal opinion would be wait. Conserve your cash at least till December. You can study the market. You keep looking at the market. But if you want to go all guns blazing in terms of, I want to develop the code, I want to be ready for the market, then study the market. Potentially there are two areas in my opinion are still not much crowded. One is, how can you organize the offline travel booking system, and two, B2B as a travel segment. For example, we are now partners with National Geographic for content. Now, pre-COVID, nobody would have thought about sharing content. We are an integrator for content. That means anyone who has exciting content that can come on our platform. We have 6,000 videos right now. There will be more. We have like 100 channels on the platform. We can have more. But now there is a pull in the market for good content, and like Net Geo, etc. We have started collaborating. So there is a space in B2B if you can identify a gap. But for that, you need some experience in the industry to understand the B2B space. B2C space is fairly easy to study, analyze. There are reports available. Mm-hmm. So first part is, if you are really willing to do something in the travel industry, conserve your cash. But if you want to really think about the offline market and think about the B2B market to start with. And like what Hari mentioned, in terms of technology perspective, don't try to over-engineer anything. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. There is already so much out there that you can reuse, you can utilize. You just look at AWS. It's a world on its own. There is so much available out there. You can just start reusing it. Obviously, your cost will be a factor, but there is so much out there. Don't reinvent. Try to reuse what it is. Build your POC so strong, but for an Indian audience. If you are looking for for VCs in India, in the first 6 months to 1 year, you will have to show that you have got certain revenues. When they talk about traction, they don't clearly tell you this, but they will say, we want to see more traction. Traction means they want to see money.
Right. So great. I think, Purav and Hari, both of you, very interesting point there. Purav says, stop, wait until December, don't spend your money. So I think great on that aspect. I think a lot of people will second with that. I'm not sure how many people though. I think that it's good that we get their comments in the comment section. I'll follow up this with another, a completely different aspect of your business. That is your teams. Now, you guys are technology, technology first teams. So, curating, how does your team understand what does the customer require or what does the end user require? What is he craving for? Be it their likes, their dislikes. What is the kind of content that should be going out? How does your team understand that aspect? It's not necessary that everybody is well traveled, everybody understands what it is to be a traveler. So what are those aspects? How do you get that within your team? That, I think it's the DNA of your team has to be that they should love travel and they should live by it. I think then they'll be able to give out something great. Is it? Or yeah, maybe Hari, you can take on this question again. Yeah.
See, one is as a one is a very fundamental compass of the organization, right? So if you're a B2C company, right, then how do we align the entire organization to be open to consumers and what consumers are thinking and what consumers are feeling? I mean, all of us are consumers, right, in some way or the other. That's we buy stuff, we use products, right? We kind of make decisions, right? And net, that's the same that kind of translates in all other purchases and decisions that we make, right? So I think one is a realization that, hey, we ourselves are consumers, and just by paying attention to how we behave, right, how you react to a sale, right, how you react to something else, right, that can also give you insights.
Right. So maybe I'll just add to that. Maybe the question, the better framing would be, how do you inculcate that sense, or how do you inculcate in the team, or how do they get that feedback? Okay, this is not being liked. This is being liked. Probably on those lines. Yeah.
So I think one, it starts with that, like I was saying, the larger grounding that, hey, you know what? I mean, we have to start figuring out from a consumer first perspective. And that takes over multiple amounts of time. You kind of start talking about multiple things with multiple teams. That happens. Then there are multiple ways to do it, right? How do you kind of build that behavior? Is there are obviously technology tools like something like Hotjar, right? You do A/B testing on VWO, right? Or for example, Figma. I mean, so many other tools that come in which let you can just now prototype an entire web experience on Figma and share it before even writing one page of code, right? I mean, you could do that right now. So how do we take that approach first? How do we take that approach of, we will try and iteratively build things. We will not try and build everything in a silo, right? So that's slightly a cultural thing as well, right? I mean, there are multiple tools. You can get a Hotjar paid account and you can get a password, but then unless the culture is inherently there, people will not go log in and see as to, right, what's happening, what customers are doing. And obviously, given the FMCG background, I think is always a lot of merit in a good, well done, focused discussion or a qualitative interview, right, with people. So we've done some bit of user studies. The design team picks up, right? But interestingly for us, sometimes customers walk into office. So the team kinds of, once this transaction is done, they sit with the customer, run them through the product, take some feedback, right? I mean, some of this could be anecdotal, but it kind of, you will have some kind of hypothesis that you could also test out over a period of month, right? If let's say 60 to 100 people kind of have similar feedbacks, then do you want to go back and revisit that? So I think one is cultural, second is empowering through various tools that can exist today, and third is to move it iteratively. It cannot be like, okay, we will give it like 2 months. It can be fixed in 1, 2, 3 days, but then give it those 2 weeks to measure and then go back and fix it again.
Okay, sure. Purav, your comments on that?
So the three things here. Number one, we need to constantly communicate the vision and through a product roadmap, that this is where we want to go. This is eventually where we are leading. So whenever you are taking a decision, don't take a decision for now. Take a decision for what is going to come next in 6 months. Number two, we have something called PATA, product analyst and technical and product architect and technical architect. Whenever the ideation starts for a product line, we ensure that the technology TA is also involved right from the early stage of ideation, so that they know that this is the business angle to it, and we don't actually create a wireframe and then invite someone and say, now you have to just code this. They are involved in that phase. And number three, the market feedback. That is very, very crucial, that how your product is performing based on the analytics, how do you take it back to them? How do you keep encouraging them even if they have failed? Coders are very sensitive, so you will have to put it in the right way, but in most assertive way possible, that this is working, this is not working. So helping them and empowering them through certain tools to understand the market feedback is very crucial, and most of the organizations go slow here because it takes time for them to understand. It's not a magic wand, it won't happen in 2 weeks, like what Hari said.
Great inputs there for people who are looking to start up in this domain and looking to form a team. How to get that DNA right? It's very critical, very important. So great points there, Hari and Purav. Hari, before you head out, one quick thought if you could share. Is it necessary to have prior experience or offline experience to build in this domain, or you can just go online directly? What would you say in the travel industry?
I think if you're building something like Pura very clearly said is a B2B white space that you want to go after, then having that experience is very, very crucial to understand, because B2B is very different, a beast by itself, right? So clearly then you have to have some bit of experience to build a B2B solution, right? But if it's B2C, then I think so we don't have a travel industry experience. We just like travel, right, when we started. So I think B2C is still much easier without industry context, because there's a genuine curiosity towards that. That's why you even want to try that, right? So I think that curiosity and hustle will kind of take care of the experience part. But I mean, yes, we had to kind of wait 3 years to get access to very good APIs, very good rates, right? You have to build business, you have to build cases. The patience has to be there. If we came from the industry, then ideally we would have already have those relationships and we could move faster forward.
Great, great.
Anybody who has any questions on travel or anything, please feel free to hit me up. I'm at HARIPYT. And also we have a freedom sale going on in Pickyourtrail. We believe people are looking at taking staycations and small trips, right? So do check us out. We have phenomenal pricing, better than OTAs. So look forward to some of you transacting on the platform. Thank you for having me over, Srikanth, and it was a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Great, Hari. Thanks.
Thank you, Hari.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for your time. Yeah, take care. So Purav, your comments, is it necessary, like Hari said, B2B, yes, you should have that experience, but, is there anything different that you would like to share on the same?
See, to be an entrepreneur, first thing you need is passion.
Sure.
Unless you do not have passion to change the world, you really need to dream big. You cannot just say, I'm going to just take a chance and let's see. You just need to have that confidence, I'm going to change the world. And you have to have the passion for whatever you're doing.
And maybe in these difficult times also have the bank balance?
For sure. For sure. Make sure that you are sufficiently backed up by an investor who is a strategic investor and not somebody who is looking at returns at the end of 2 years. But beyond that, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to go after a B2B or an offline market, it's not easy. Plus, you need to have some network, some understanding. But if you're looking at B2C, it is fairly easy, or a B2B2C is also fairly easier as compared to B2B. However, agility in these times will make or break. For example, the culture trip shows one of their statistics that they had 2 billion video views in 4 years or something around that, something around those lines. I may be off by 1 year or so. Nowadays, we also, we've got like 25 million in 6 months. I know that what is my return on marketing investment. I know that if I put the right amount of money, I can also get, let's say, 1 billion views. But how faster are you than the market? And are you constantly taking that feedback from the market? And are you constantly thinking of how do I monetize my product? For Indian investors, that is very critical.
Great. I think, yeah.
Technology team, find a good architect. Make sure that you invest heavily on a good architect, because your architect is going to ultimately drive the performance, the scale, and the security of the platform. If you try to start with a few decent coders and then think that, oh, eventually I will change the code, no, try to start with a good architect.
Sure, sure. I think great points there, Purav. Again, very gives a sense of direction to the to those who are about to start in this particular segment. Closing comment from you, Purav. One last one and very brief one at that. Where do you see this heading? Once especially the QuaQua, with the virtual reality thing. Where do you see this headed? What is the V 2.0? If this is V 1.0, what's the 2.0?
See, honestly, whatever industry reports say, it is very difficult to predict the travel market as such.
Okay.
Companies that would survive the whole COVID saga post March, if most of the travel tech, there will be some consolidation happening in the industry. You will see a lot of companies on sale and etc. You never know. It's very difficult to predict the market. But when it comes to technology, there is certainly more scope for augmented reality, mixed reality rather than virtual reality in this space, where everything will be driven through mobiles eventually. However, like what Hari mentioned earlier, bookings will always be a family affair or a group affair, and therefore you want a larger than life image. So when you are a travel tech company, always think of desktop and mobile browser version, not just an app. Only for app first would only work if you are solving a very niche problem in the travel industry. Otherwise, you will have to grow through all the channels. You have to invest across all the channels.
Great, great. I think very valid inputs there. You will require presence across, multiple platforms. Cannot just be an app unless and until it's a niche. So I think great points there. On this note, Purav, we will, end this panel. So thank you, Purav, for joining us and to this session.
But thank you. It's a pleasure and good luck to Headstart.
Wonderful, Purav. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.